Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review number 508. Today we're going to take a look at Millennium Blades. This is a new game from Level 99 Games. You can see it's a decent sized box. Now what this is you are going to be simulating kind of like a season of a trading card game, and you are going to be playing that competitively. And in the game you're going to be going and buying these packs and opening packs of cards and sort of building your collection, participating in tournaments. You're able to trade cards with other players, sell cards to the aftermarket, and so on. So it's really kind of simulating if you're playing like Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering or one of these trading card games within about a 2.5 hour time frame. So let's jump in and take a look at it. There's a ton of components, as seems to be the norm for Level 99, at least their big box games. So let's jump in and take a look at it, and then I will tell you what I think. Okay, so here's everything that you get in the game, but I can't squeeze in basically any of it. You have here some player boards, and each of these boards is double-sided. On this side you can see kind of the tournament side, and this side with a sort of folder looking type of deal here, you've got the collection side. You're going to be going through different phases of the game, doing some deck building, some collection, buying and selling and trading cards, and then you're going to move into a tournament phase where you kind of play cards in your tableau or your display here, set up some accessories and so on. And then you keep track of like the points that you score during the deck build, or excuse me, during the tournament, and then you're going to get victory points basically out of both phases though, and that's going to be your total victory points. So forgive me if I kind of zoom in a little bit here. You've got a giant stack of cards. I'll get to that in a minute. There's two different kind of market areas here, and then you've got a bunch of money and things over here, some of these starter cards and stuff I'll show you. And then I just want to show you over here, you got some other little mini tokens. And all of these cards are the cards that I'm currently not using in the game. Now, you're going to take cards out of these different stacks here, and I've already done that, and I'm not going to break it apart because here we have sort of our central core deck. And you can see it's quite a large deck of cards, and you will go through that whole deck in an entire game, believe it or not. And this is made up of kind of basic cards here. So we have these cards here that have a back that says single card core pack. And what these are representing packs of cards, but when you buy these and open these, you just get like the one good card. In this case, it's actually a deck box. But in this one, you might have a master pack here. So you might open this one and get this one, and it's a character that you can use. And then you've got these other types of cards. This is, instead of a master, it's a single card expansion pack. So you might buy this and you get this cool kind of robot guy there. And so you're going to shuffle these up, and you're going to have a certain configuration. And this is the starter configuration that the rule book tells me to take this pack and these sets and throw these together and then shuffle this giant deck. Now you might say to yourself, okay, that's going to take a super long time to set up every game, but I would not change this over the course of, I don't know, several games, because what's going to happen is you're going to kind of develop a knowledge of what's in here relatively quickly after a play or two, and then kind of know what kind of the strategies are in terms of like winning the tournaments or collecting the different sets and so on. And then you can kind of start swapping stuff in. So the first thing players are going to do is they're going to get these character cards. And you can play with or without these, but I would recommend them. Here's a couple of different characters that I'm showing you here. And let's take a look at here. This is the character Power Creep. He's a robot. You can see he has a tournament power, and then he also has a deck building power. So these are just different special abilities that will take place in the two phases that you can do. So that's pretty cool. And then also each player or character has these friendship cards, and these are going to grant victory points to other players. And you might use these to actually sweeten the deal if you have a trade that is sort of balanced in terms of the game's value, but you think that the other player is going to get more an advantage of it. You can kind of sweeten the deal and just kind of hand them victory points. So any friendship cards that you collect at the end of the game will give you extra victory points, and they're not drastic, so they might be a good reason to do it. And then you're going to either randomly or choose and select these little starter sets here. So you can see we have this guy here, Chateau Hellbane, and we're going to take all of his cards and then give that to one of the players. And you've got Blue Lake Village. And so each player is going to have this little sort of starting set that they're going to work with, and they're going to have different abilities on the cards. And so the game tells you can play kind of a pre-release tournament with this set here. And so we did this, and I would recommend it, is you actually do that and you play, and you kind of play it for a minimal amount of victory points in the game, and then you move into the deck building. And from there you're going to do three deck building phases, and each of those is followed by a tournament phase. So it adds a little bit of time to do this basic tournament But I would recommend it because when you go to deck build, you're going to be like, okay, why? What am I doing? Like, why am I buying these cards or trading for these? So what you're looking at with these cards is a few different things. Here you've got the star value, and this is kind of the general goodness of the card. So the better cards will have higher star values, and it kind of also determines a little bit kind of abstractly the value of the card in terms of trades, and then some of the effects and things during the tournament will trigger off of that. And then you have here the element, and then you have the type underneath that. And then you also have the rarity here, so it's kind of a general rarity that happens there. Now these are all kind of starter cards, you can see by that. And then of course the special effect of the ability when it's in play. So when you play these cards, you're going to have usually 6 rounds, and then players have to play at least 1 card per round. So let's say I'm first, and I'm going to go ahead and play this card, and then you play it, and then you might do the play effect here, or it might end up, if it stays face up, it will have the score effect, and you'll gain 6 of these points for each face down card in your tableau. So you might try to flip stuff face down, and then some of these will have an action on them. Okay, so I forgot to use a deck that has some action cards in it. Let's take a look here. This one has this card here. So like I said, you always have to at least play a card, but some of these cards will have actions. You can optionally do 1 action on your turn. Whenever you do an action, you're going to flip the card over, and then you're just going to do whatever it says. You're also going to always have, or usually have, a deck box and an accessory here. And so these will be out here, and you can see you can have up to 2 accessories, and then you have a deck box. And this one, for example, has a score ability, and you see you gain 8 points for each of the earth cards, and that makes sense because this deck is full of earth cards. So you'll get that at the end of when you score. And then these basic accessories are the same for all the players, and you have a reaction. So if somebody tries to flip over one of your cards, you can, as a reaction, flip this over, and then you can prevent that. So you're going to be take turns playing cards, and each player has the cubes in their color, and they'll track in the 3 digits here, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game, either through actions and playing cards or scoring cards at the end, then you're going to get the most victory points. So you'll take, and let's say you have 140 of these battle points, then you will get 7 or 40 victory points depending on which tournament that you're playing. So it's a lot of kind of timing, and it actually kind of reminds me of a game called Fairy Tale, if you've ever played that, but just kind of on steroids, so to speak. So you're going to take turns, and there's some cards that will interact, some cards that will clash with an opponent. So you're going to compare the strength of the card used to clash, which is the star value, with their sort of rightmost face-up card. It's called the top card. So you'll clash, and then you'll actually, each player will flip a card off the deck here, kind of like rolling dice, and then add the star value there to each person. And then sometimes if you win, or sometimes if the opponent wins, then you'll get extra battle points and so on. So that's very simple, and there's going to be kind of a metagame that's going to evolve as you kind of get to know all the cards in the deck, and certain decks will like try to score all their points at the end, or score all their points, or screw people out of points while you're playing the tournament. So that's the really succinct way to determine. Now the other thing to note, which isn't going to happen in the starter tournament, is you have these metagame cards which will come up during the deck building phase. And these will come up periodically, and you'll kind of learn the metagame. And so any card that has this symbol here, which you can see is on this card here, if you meet that, then you get a kind of a bonus of 15 battle points to your total, which means you played the metagame well. So there'll be 2 of these types up that you can get extra points off of. Now let's talk a little bit about the deck building phase. This is going to be actually a real-time timed phase, so you want a stopwatch or some kind of app on your phone. And you'll have 2 7-minute phases followed by a 6-minute phase. The 6-minute phase is kind of optional, but I think as you're learning the game, you're definitely going to make use of that. And so what's going to happen is you're going to be dealt 6 cards, each player off the top of this deck. So these are going to be different packs that you get. So everybody's going to get these. You're going to have these to start with. You're going to reveal one of the metagame cards. So you can say, okay, maybe I want to keep my eye out on these symbols here. And then after the first 7-minute period, you'll reveal another one. And so that'll give you the second symbol. And in each of those 7-minute periods, like I said, you're going to be dealt cards just kind of like for free off the top of the deck. In the first phase, you're going to get 30 bucks or 30,000 bucks or whatever you want to say of these. Now this money is very interesting. So this is actually just kind of regular old sort of junky paper money, but they give you these stickers here. So you wrap 10 of these And each of these, this is just worth 1, and then these are worth 5 and 10 and so on. But when you pay for something, if you're going to pay for 6, you just throw these down. So it's kind of cool because you have like this wad of cash and you can pretend you have lots of disposable income to play this very expensive TCG in this fantasy world. So you have that money each time you have a deck building phase, and then you get the free cards. And then after everybody's dealt 6 cards, you're going to put 9 cards out here in the store. And these are packs that are available. And you can see here's a price on the back of them. So let me get these dealt out. And these are various different things, and these are all available, including the one on the top here. So let's take a look at this one here, and we will see that the cost there is $5. So you pay $5 to the bank, you take this, open up the pack, and be like, oh, yippee, or that sucks. It's just like a TCG. You're like, that's not the card I wanted. So you get that, and then this will be replenished as you play, and you can, again, also buy off the top. So this is, again, all real time. So you can buy these. You can trade cards with somebody. So if I wanted to trade this guy here, you're going to take a look at the star value. So when we make a trade, star values have to match. So this would be an equal trade, 4 for 4. But if there was a slight difference in that, let's take a look at this one. Let's find one. This is a 3. Then either I'd have to sweeten the deal and the 3 would have to give another 1-star card to match that, or you can just give the player $1 for each kind of missing star level in the difference. And again, remember, you have these friendship cards. So even if, you know, it's technically a fair deal, you know that he's going to be able to make something really cool for his deck or whatever, you can sweeten the deal with one of these friendship cards and give them some points at the end of the game. The other thing you do is you can sell cards, and each player gets a number of these sell tokens depending on the number of players. So I might throw this down. I'm going to go ahead and put this out here on the aftermarket, and then I'll mark that with one of my sell tokens. Now I'm immediately going to get the star value worth of money immediately, and so it's going to sit there sort of on consignment. And another player can come along and buy this, and they pay the $4 to the bank. But the cool thing is this card comes off, I get my sell token back, and then I can use it again on a different card, because you're limited by the amount of sell tokens that you can use. Now the other thing that you're going to be using these sell tokens for is you can see these promo packs, bronze, silver, and then there's gold down here. And the way that you do these, you can see you can discard any 5 cards out of the game and get a bronze promo card right off the top. And then it's 7 for silver and then 9 for a gold. And what you do is you take and put your sell token there next to that. It means you can't do that again. So I could go and do this once per deck building phase. Discard 9 cards, get a gold, then maybe do 5 and get a bronze. And then in the next deck building phase after the next tournament, you know, we get these all back and you could do it again. And these are some of the more powerful cards. So what you're trying to do, and again, you're trying to look at these different symbols and things, and of course different special abilities, but a lot of the combos are going to work off of these. So you're going to try to have, again, even for the metagame purposes, because remember, you're going to reveal that metagame card. But there's little combos and tricks, and you can score extra points for having, you know, different sets of these that are played, and some of these are very nasty effects, and they'll let you flip cards down and so on, and give you special points even for flipping your own cards, and all kinds of crazy effects. So you're trying to collect them, of course, to win the tournaments, but you're also trying to think about your overall collection here. So you can see you've got 3 areas on this back side of the map here. You've got collection area, the deck area, and the binder. So by the end of the time period, you want to have your deck here. You need 8 singles, a deck box, and 2 accessories. You're only going to play 6 of those, of course, during the course of the game, but you need to be locked in there, and then any extra cards can go over here to the binder. Maybe just leave them there, or you use them for next time. But you can also set aside cards here to be discarded at the end of the collection phase, and you're trying to either match the type or the element. So you're either trying to say, okay, I'm going to match all of the elements or all of the types, and based on the number of different cards that you do, you're going to get a certain number of points. So if I had like 5 of these earth cards, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would get 9 points. If you have all the way up there to 8 different cards, then you get 21 points. So that's a way you can just score straight victory points during the deck building phase and not worry about actually winning the tournament at all. I mean, you still need to do well, but so there's a balance between sort of triggering and keying off of just getting the different types for the collection and sort of just kind of that whole collector aspect of it versus the, you know, the actual tournament where you go and play and hopefully win. So that's really the game. Now, there's a lot going on because you're opening tons and tons of these packs. Remember, you're going to get dealt at least 12 of these over the course of a deck building phase. So you're looking at these, you're looking at the symbols, you're seeing, okay, it's a deck box, it's an accessory, and those have really cool effects too. And then you're trying to look at the symbols, this, in terms of the metagame, in terms of the collection ability, and you're trying to sell and trade and do all that stuff. The only other things I haven't talked about is there are these tokens here that you will come up in the tournament phase, and these can kind of modify the star value of different cards, so that's cool. And then up here at the top, you can see I have these two other sets of promo cards, and these are tournament swag. So all the players will get these depending on which tournament it is, and it'll tell you in the in the setup, which packs to use. So just by participating in the tournament, everybody will get, kind of one of these cool booster promos to add cool effects to your deck. So that's kind of a nice thematic thing. And in the case of this particular one, this one here, these are all deck boxes, and these are really cool deck boxes that players can use here. So you can see you can score 8 points for each dark or soldier card in your tableau. It's even got a dark symbol there on the deck box itself. Okay, so that is Millennium Blades, and this thing is glorious in a lot of ways because it really gives you the sense of participating in a sort of trading card game in that condensed 2-hour time period. And it feels really like you're playing through a season or a couple of different sort of blocks, if you're familiar with Magic, where they'll release sort of sets of cards every couple of months, and then you play with that set, and then you kind of move on and play the next tournament. So in terms of the deck building side, that's maybe the best part, is you have this sort of wheeling and dealing type of thing. You know what certain players are going for because they're sort of building up a collection to score kind of maybe some easy points for them during the collection phase. So you got to be very shrewd in terms of the amount of trading that you're going to do. And then you're also trying to watch what they've been playing maybe in the previous tournaments, and they've got a couple of crazy combos, so you're trying to sort of metagame against that. Now that's not going to come right away. You've got to kind of sit and live with this main deck of cards, and I would highly recommend you get the basic starter setup that they tell you, and you play through that several times, because then you can know what's going to be in there, what's going to be available. I mean, the first time you play, you're just going to be like, oh my gosh, where did that card come from? And that's hosing me up big time. What do I do against that? And then you can see another player has a little bit of a combo that can go against that. You're like, okay, so I've got to try to get some of those cards because they're a little bit not as susceptible to certain strategies and stuff. And that does exist in the game, and it's pretty remarkable that you have this kind of just sort of wild wheeling and dealing deck building part, and then this very kind of, it's simple in a lot of ways with the whole tournament thing where you just kind of, everybody's playing one card per round. But like I said, it really reminds me of Fairy Tale. It's got the whole timing aspect. If you've never played Fairy Tale, I definitely recommend it. But it's kind of blows that up. We're like, okay, if I play this now, I know Francesca has that card over there that's going to, turn this card face down because it could give me a certain number of points, which is going to make me have to turn my cards down or something like that. And so I've got to kind of work my way around that. And it's very much like those sort of nightmare cards in Fairy Tale. It's like, oh, I can play this card, it's going to lock me in and get these points, but he's going to play, or he's going to play the hunter, which is going to kill my nightmare. And so that's all Fairy Tale reference, but this has that same kind of timing aspect of, when do I play this last card, which is going to score all these points for all these cards that I've already played. I'm going to score like, 80 points in the battle points. And then, or is that risking it? Am I pushing my luck too much to try to do that? Do I want to kind of do it in the middle? They won't expect me to do it because I'm not going to get as much points. But if they hose me up before I get to that big score, then I'm going to score 0 for it, and I've wasted my time. And so there's also the balance between scoring points during the tournament versus the scoring at the end, and also trying to trigger off of your different tournament powers from your player character and so on like that. So the whole marriage of that is such a different thing. It's so different. When I first heard about this, I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing, but I don't know how they're going to pull it off. And then just my own impressions from what I was interpreting from certain reviews and what people were writing was like, oh, it's like a heavy kind of economic game on that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. And I know that they did a good job with Argent the Consortium, which is a very different kind of, worker placement bureau craziness. That's one of my favorite games ever, actually. And so I was pretty intrigued with this. And I think it's not heavy economic. It's it's just trading. It's straight up like you get a bunch of cards off the top of the deck. You can buy different cards, and it's random what you get because you just buy the card face down and you get it, and then that's it. And so then you try to, make the best deals with the trading and selling and all that stuff, and in really kind of trying to figure out which cards to keep for the collection and which cards to keep for the deck building. And that's a very, very cool hook, because you can immediately start to sort of step into the information, because first thing you're looking at is the icons, and you're like, okay, I have like 4 or 5 of these different Earth cards, and I need to put those in my collection. And okay, these all have matching stars, because I don't think I mentioned that you have to have different star values on the collection, but you do. And so I've got these here, and this is sort of a duplicate. Maybe I can put this in my deck, but you're able to sort of start just sifting through the cards based on the icons and the star value, and then you can start digging in deeper to the special effects and all that kind of stuff. And so it's very overwhelming in terms of the amount of information. I mean, if you think about it, let's say you were given like 2 sets of Magic the Gathering, you're like, metagame everything in 10 minutes. You're like, no way. You'd have to sit and play test and work through all that stuff. But you've got to kind of like be on your feet and are very reactive in this sense. So the whole heavy economic side of it, and I think this is just my misinterpretation, but I had it, so maybe other people's had it. It's not that way. It's very sort of luck based and wheeling and dealing and all that stuff. So I wouldn't necessarily go into this thinking, oh, I'm a heavy economic guy and necessarily like the game. I mean, you may still like it, but I wouldn't go into it looking for that, because it's not there. Now, the thing that is there in terms of sort of the deeper strategy of the deck building phase, or you could say the economic phase, is you can kind of long play the whole collection thing. And last time I played it, a friend of mine did that, and I was crying the whole time about it. He kind of set me straight. He's like, no, I was building he kind of forego the collection in that first round, and then he just went to set those aside in the binder, and he had a decent deck. He kind of went more for, being able to be very competitive in the tournament, and then building up that collection of cards to cash those in on the second and third deck building phase and score the 16 or the 21 points, because that's 42 points right there. And that's how much you get for just winning the last tournament, because the points go up. So you can very much try to balance, and it's almost like a giant hand management thing where it's like, okay, these cards are going to be used here in the tournament, these are going to be used here, so they're kind of like a multi-use card kind of vibe happening. So you've got that sort of longer, sort of almost kind of super strategic kind of thing, but it's not extra heavy. It's more of a push or luck thing, because you have the packs and things you're going to open, and they may or may not fit, the synergies versus the deck building versus the tournament. Thematic wise, I think I've kind of talked mechanically how thematically attached this is, and it's very attached to it. But you've got sort of lots of video game references and pop culture references and other board games and Magic references and so on that you're gonna probably get or miss, and so that's pretty cool. And so it's a very kind of busy anime vibe, which gives you that kind of Yu-Gi-Oh vibe, that's cool. And I like the stacks of cash. I mean, that's neat. I was frankly watching somebody else teach me how to play this game while I was stickering these stacks, so that was kind of an interesting use of time. So if you're watching the video at this point, you're probably too late, but you should start stickering these right away and then watch a video. And there's other videos that teach you how to play, so it's always good to have more than one person teach you how to something. So that's cool. But I really enjoy this game. It can be frustrating in a good way, because you're buying packs, you're not getting what you want, which is thematic to the TCG, and it's very frenzied. You've got that timed aspect, which some people aren't going to enjoy, but I thought it worked, and I thought it's 14. It's about 20 minutes per phase. So you're looking at that's like an hour of the game, just the deck building, and so you figure maybe another hour or so for the actual tournaments. It's going to lock in at about 2 hours. I think as people get better at the deck building, you won't need that 6-minute extra phase. So that'll cut out about 20 minutes of the game. And like I said, if you stick with this stack, you're going to know better what's in there, and you're going to kind of have a quicker understanding of what's kind of happening out there. I would recommend this highly, I think, to anybody that's ever sort of been involved in a TCG ever. I think you'll be able to gravitate right into it, quickly understand the rules are pretty simple in terms of the mechanics. You'll be able to get right into it. I don't know if you've never done that, if you'd be into it. I think this would give you a sense of that. Like, it's going to give you kind of a sense of the frustration as well. So you have to kind of go into it knowing that, I think. And there's moments, like I said, during the tournament where somebody can play like that big card and you're like, man, I was going to score like 100 points, but nope, you got screwed out of that. Everybody's got to lose some points, or you've got to turn these 2 cards face down, which you were going to score. And so when you play these kind of tournaments, you can have those kind of, those bad beats where you're playing and then somebody has that deck that's just going to beat your deck every time, because that's how the metagame worked. So it's got all of those elements to it. And it works. So definitely not a game for everybody. But it's so different. Like, I want to say everybody should at least try the game, because like Argent, it's really a step apart from being defined. If I would say this is a Euro game or an economic game or a Ameritrash game, this doesn't line up with like any of the criteria. Maybe even more so than Argent, but I think that this is cool. I like that they're doing this, and I don't like to get too bandwagony on companies or whatever, but that to me, these two kind of back to back. Argent was more of a last year thing, and this is a 2016 thing. That's cool. I like that they're doing these crazy kind of big box games. I think I'm kind of stuttering a little bit, because I think these are kind of important games. I mean, not to get too snooty about it, but they're so different and they're so just unique, and they have the unique vibe. You're going to get a very different experience out of this. You may not like it, I grant that. This is very kind of hectic and everything, but I would certainly give it a shot, and it really is kind of definitely a huge breath of fresh air. So anyway, that's Millennium Blades. Thanks.